This is Gisors Castle in France, about 2 hours north of Paris. And it was here, at a tree, very much like this one, that the whole Knights Templar story is said to have begun over 900 years ago. Now, according to the legend, a group of French knights gathered here in 1118 and split a large elm tree in half before they all made solemn vows to God to help pilgrims in the Holy Land. And whether or not this was true, well, to be honest, no one really knows. But we do know that around 20 knights did go to Jerusalem a year later to do just that. The order's full name was the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, and it was led by Hugh de Payens, a French nobleman from the Champagne region.
Pilgrimage had started in the Middle Ages, had become popular. The First Crusade had taken parts of Jerusalem, but they were finding that the pilgrims were being robbed en route. So a small band of knights were formed, and they were sent to the Holy Land to protect the pilgrims. When they arrived, they took up residence in what was thought to be the original Temple of Solomon.
They were like a cross between three things. First, they were the Navy SEALs or the SAS. They were crack elite troops of their age. Second, they were masters of finance. They were like the Goldman Sachs of the period. And third, they were a unique and committed religious group, like Opus Dei, of lay people. So you bring those three together, and it's something that only the medieval world could have created.
There are all kinds of rumours that tend to circulate around the Knights Templar of their involvement in things like satanic worship and black magic and the occult. Do you think there's any truth in those rumours?
Probably not, because the Templar had a lot of enemies. They were very powerful, and one of those enemies was the King of France. He needed money, and he wanted to attack the Templar, so he spread a lot of rumors.
Do you think the King of France may have imprisoned the Knights Templars here at the castle?
Yes, like every prison in France, the castle of Gisors had Templar prisoner, Jacques de Molay and others.
Whether the Templars were heretics or not, one thing is certain: they were extremely wealthy. When King Philip had them arrested, he also ordered the confiscation of their wealth, properties, and treasure.
When they threw open the doors of the Templar headquarters and at Gisors and the castles, all these places had crypts, they all had areas, but they found them empty. They found there's no money. It had all been moved, it had all been secreted away, so it had gone.
The accounts of the time is that the Templars actually managed to make a run for it with a lot of their wealth to the port of La Rochelle, and their wealth was never seen again. When the king's men turned up at the Paris Temple, the wealth that the king had seen on a previous occasion had simply vanished into thin air. And of course, the stories go that that wealth was then taken to Britain, ultimately to Scotland, and maybe onto the New World.
The Templars were a massive society, and they were a secret society, which meant they had sort of a finger in every pie, in every court, in every land. So when the order comes through to arrest them, it's a distinct possibility they'd already heard about it. And therefore, if they had some treasure, they could have squirreled it away somewhere, hidden it in various different strongholds. So the Templar treasure was spread out all over the known world at the time. It wasn't necessarily just in one place.
Because nothing was found, the conspiracy theorists will go, aha, but did you not know that there are all these fleets of Templars ships that were, escaping to islands and places all over the world with treasure? These stories repeat themselves all the time. There's no truth to it at all. They were wound up, their estates and money were confiscated, end of.
After 1307, many thousands of Templars avoid arrest and settle in Switzerland, as well as Scotland, Spain and Portugal, perhaps taking much of their wealth and treasure with them. It is one of the most intriguing and fascinating stories in history. They came and went in just a couple of hundred years, leaving an indelible mark. In that time, they were said to have excavated for holy treasures under Temple Mount in Jerusalem, used whatever they discovered to finance a huge banking setup across Europe, the first of its kind, and taken part in secret and possibly demonic ceremonies. Perhaps most controversially of all, had they discovered some truths or evidence about the story of Christ, which led them to oppose the church. So was the truth that they'd simply become too rich and powerful for their own good? Or was there more to their fall than meets the eye?
There was something about the Templars. They posed a threat to the king. The king was frightened that they had the resources to maybe set up their own kingdom within France. And the church clearly had issues with the Templars. Was there something that the Templars knew? Was there something that they'd learnt in Jerusalem that posed a threat to ecclesiastical authority? Whatever it was, they were wiped off the face of the earth in a very short period of time.
If you look at the Templars today, they've become something of a legend. The mythology, the glamour, I think, around them is something that has lasted, far longer than their reign.
The Templars were incredibly important in history. They really are pretty much the source of all Western secret societies. The Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, the modern Templar orders, you can trace them all back to the Knights Templar. The first real swathe of alternative history coming through from the Holy Land, from the Near East, coming into Europe, starting to permeate European ideals, European culture, art, everything. It all goes back to the Templars. It all comes from them.
The Knights Templar are a real enigma of history. They might have only lasted just over 200 years, but their presence survives to this day, with hundreds of Templar societies around the world, all proudly, if, let's face it, slightly erroneously, claiming their origins back to those original French knights who set off for the Holy Land. So what, if anything, did they find under Jerusalem all those years ago? Well, the fact is, no one really knows for sure, but they were said to have brought a small fortune in gold and treasures back to their various commanderies in Europe, including here at Gisors. It's ironic then that when the order went out on Friday the 13th, 1307, to arrest them all and take their goods and chattels, nothing was ever found. In his bestseller, Foucault's Pendulum, the late writer and historian Umberto Eco wrote a fascinating postscript to the Templars. The order has never ceased to exist, not for a moment. And if the name of the true Grand Master remains a mystery today, an impenetrable secret known only to the truly enlightened, it is because the hour of the order has not struck and the time is not yet ripe.